should have known something was wrong the moment I stepped into that restaurant. It was just too perfect. The lights were warm, the air smelled like heaven, and the people inside laughed like they didn't have a care in the world. But what really got me was the chef, standing at the entrance, greeting every single customer with a grin stretched so wide, it almost looked painful. His eyes didn't blink, and he smiled, constantly, even when no one was talking to him. If only I had walked away then. If only I had listened to the tight knot in my gut. But I was hungry, and curiosity is a dangerous spice. The restaurant was called Delirium's Kitchen, tucked in a part of town I hadn't explored before. There were no signs on the street, no advertisements. Just a dimly lit alley and a swinging wooden door with a single word carved into the frame. Enter. Inside it was a different world. Ornate chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting golden light over velvet booths. The walls were painted deep red, and the scent, good God, the scent, wrapped around me like a lover's embrace. Roast duck, garlic butter, fresh bread, and something floral that I couldn't quite place. The smiling chef stood near the hostess podium, his hands clasped neatly in front of him. His skin was flawless, unnaturally smooth, as if sculpted from wax. He wore a white double-breasted jacket, spotless, and his toque blanche sat perfectly balanced atop his head. But it was the grin that froze me. Too many teeth. Too much enthusiasm. Not a single flicker of genuine warmth in his gaze. "Welcome to Delirium's," he said, voice melodic and unervingly calm. "We've been waiting for you." I tried to play it cool. "Yeah, I just kinda stumbled in. Hope that's okay." He tilted his head, grin unwavering. "No one stumbles into Delirium's. Everyone who enters was meant to." He gestured to a booth in the back. "Please follow me. The menu will find you shortly." I hesitated, but something in the room seemed to nudge me forward. Maybe it was the aroma, maybe it was the hypnotic lighting, or maybe I was just tired of the outside world and its bland, reheated mediocrity. Followed him. The booth was cushioned, the table immaculately set. A candle flickered in the center, casting long, twisting shadows on the crimson tablecloth. There was no menu at first, just silence and the soft murmur of other diners around me. Then it appeared. I didn't see anyone bring it. One moment the table was empty, and the next, a single sheet of black parchment lay before me, gold lettering embossed on the surface. "Tonight's specials," it read. The whispering veal. Braised echoes with spirit reduction. A screaming mushrooms in bloodwine sauce. A forgotten lamb charred in memory oil. Dessert. Silent regret soufflé. Chuckled. Cute. Real immersive. When the waiter arrived, I realized I hadn't even seen him walk over. He was pale, gaunt, eyes sunken deep in his skull, but he moved with an eerie grace. "No pad, no pen. What will it be?" he asked, voice like dry leaves scraping concrete. I tried to lighten the mood. "You guys go heavy on the whole haunted fine dining theme, huh?" The waiter didn't blink. "The food remembers who eats it." I coughed awkwardly. "Okay. I'll have the screaming mushrooms." He nodded slowly and vanished between the candlelit shadows. I waited. The people around me ate in silence. Nobody was speaking, nobody laughing anymore. It was as if a fog had settled over the room, dampening sound, pressing against my skin. My stomach growled. When the dish arrived, the presentation was stunning. A slate-black plate, artistically smeared with deep red sauce, and in the center, 3 bulbous mushrooms glistening with glaze. Steam rose from them, fragrant and strangely sweet. The waiter placed the dish and stepped back. "Bon appetit." Picked up my fork. The moment the tines pierced the mushroom, it let out a soft, high-pitched wail. Froze. It wasn't a trick of the mind. The sound was real. Faint but unmistakable, a scream. I looked around. No one else reacted. They just kept eating, eyes glazed over, faces blank. I touched the mushroom again. Another whimper like something dying slowly. I stared at my plate, heart thudding in my chest. "What the hell?" I whispered. Then I noticed it, the chef, standing just beyond the kitchen doors, partially hidden by the frosted glass. He was watching me, smiling. That same grotesque grin. My skin crawled. I should have left. I knew I should have left. But instead I took a bite. First, it tasted incredible. Rich, savory umami with a faint tang that tingled down my spine. But then, a sharp pain stabbed my temple. My vision blurred. Felt cold. And suddenly I wasn't in the restaurant anymore. I was in a forest. No, not a forest, something darker. The trees bent like they were weeping, and the air reeked of rot and burnt hair. I could hear whispers. Thousands of them. Behind me, beneath me, above me. They slithered across my ears. "You ate it. You tasted us. Now we know you." I stumbled backward and crashed through the underbrush. But the ground wasn't dirt. It was skin. Pale and pulsing beneath my feet. Veins throbbed under my soles. Something reached up and grabbed my ankle. I screamed. And then I was back. Sitting at my booth. The candle flickered. My plate was empty. Clean. I gasped and shoved away from the table, heart hammering against my ribs. Sweat drenched my shirt. My vision swam. The waiter was there, smiling. "Would you like dessert?" "No," I breathed. "No, I think I need to go." His smile faded for a fraction of a second. "The chef doesn't like it when guests leave hungry." "I'm not hungry," I muttered, standing too fast. The room tilted. My knees buckled, and I gripped the edge of the table. People were watching me now. Every single diner turned slowly to face me, mouths agape, eyes wide and blank. Like dolls. Like mannequins. The chef stepped into view. He was walking toward me, still smiling, hands behind his back. "Leaving already?" he asked. "I'm done," I said, forcing myself to move toward the door. "You're all insane." He tilted his head. "That's not very polite, you know. After all we've prepared just for you." As I reached the door, it slammed shut on its own. The candlelight flickered red. The walls pulsed like the veins of a living thing. And from somewhere deep in the kitchen I heard it again. Scream. Not a human one. A chorus of wails, hundreds, maybe thousands, rising in a hellish crescendo. And then, my stomach twisted. I fell to my knees, clutching my gut. Something moved inside me. Crawling. Squirming. The chef knelt beside me, still smiling. "You should have read the fine print. That was 3 nights ago. I'm writing this from a motel 2 towns over. I haven't slept. I haven't eaten. Every time I close my eyes, I see those trees. I hear the whispers. And my stomach hasn't stopped churning. It talks to me now. Low murmurs, voices I don't recognize. But worst of all, last night when I looked in the mirror, my mouth smiled. But I didn't. It's been 4 days since I escaped Delirium's kitchen. At least I think I escaped. I haven't been able to eat anything since that night. Every time I try, the food rise. I don't mean it moves like it's alive. I mean it screams, howls. Even a piece of bread trembles in my hands like it's begging me not to bite. I tried to chalk it up to a breakdown. Hallucinations. Some twisted psychological fallout from a traumatic experience. But what happened last night proved it isn't in my head. I was at a gas station outside of Little Pines, halfway across the state. I grabbed a bag of chips, just to try something bland. I hadn't eaten in days and figured salt and crunch might help me feel normal again. But the moment I opened the bag, the chips started whispering. "You let him in. You let him in. You let him in." I screamed and threw them across the store. The clerk stared at me, slack-jawed, watching me back away like I was about to explode. And honestly, I thought I might. My stomach writhed like there were insects crawling around inside me. I haven't dared try again. Now I'm holed up in a roadside motel, room 206, where the AC leaks and the curtains never close all the way. I've blocked the door with a dresser and unplugged the TV. Still, every few hours the static flickers on by itself. And always, There's that smile burned into the darkness behind my eyelids. I don't know what the chef did to me, but I think I brought a piece of that place with me. And it's growing. Started again this morning. My stomach made a noise, not a growl. Voice. It whispered, "Feed us." I bolted from bed, grabbed my coat, and decided to go back. I needed answers. Or a priest. Or someone who knew what the hell was happening. I headed back toward the city, retracing my route to where I found Delirium's kitchen. The alley where the door had been. But it was gone. Not just closed, gone. Replaced with a brick wall. The whole building looked different, like it had never been there. I banged on the wall, screamed, paced the block. Nothing. The chef had said no one stumbles in. That everyone who enters was meant to. So how the hell did I find it before? And why couldn't I find it now? Just when I was about to give up, I saw someone across the street watching me. Woman. Pale, shivering, her clothes ragged and smeared with something dark. Her eyes darted left and right, never resting. She looked like she hadn't slept in years. Crossed quickly. "Hey, you okay?" She flinched. "You hear it too, don't you?" Froze. What? The food. The whispering. The screaming. My mouth went dry. "You've been to the restaurant." She nodded, slow and terrified. 3 years ago. I only took one bite. But it was enough. She started shaking, wrapping her arms around herself. "I see him. Every night. The chef. Smiling. He waits behind the veil. And he's hungry." "I need to get back in," I said. "I need to find it. Before something happens to me." She laughed. A brittle, broken sound. "You don't find deliriums. It finds you." "Then how did I get in the first time?" Her face darkened. "You were chosen. Same as me. Same as all of us." I leaned closer. "What do you mean, us?" "There's a group," she said. "We call ourselves the leftovers." "The what?" "We've all been marked. We're what's left behind after the meal." She looked up with haunted eyes. "We meet in the old butcher shop off Merrow Lane. Midnight. Come if you want the truth. But be warned, truth is never free." She turned and vanished into the alley before I could ask more. That night I found the place. A decrepit butcher shop, boarded up windows, sign faded and hanging loose by a single nail. Harper's Meat's barely legible. I slipped in through a side door, the handle still sticky with dried something. The smell hit me immediately. Rot, iron and dampness. Perfect setting for a horror movie. But there were people inside. 7 of them. All seated in a rough circle, flickering candles between them. They all looked wrong. Hollowed out. Sunken. Like they hadn't eaten in years but still lived on. The woman from earlier, her name was Julia, motioned for me to sit. An older man leaned forward. He had a stitched scar from ear to chin. "First time." He nodded. He grunted. "You still look normal. That'll change." "What is this?" "Yes. What the hell happened to us?" Julia lit another candle. "You ever heard of soul food?" I almost laughed. Yeah, sure. "This isn't a metaphor," she said. "Deliriums doesn't serve meals. It serves pieces. People. Of memory. Time. You eat and it eats back. You take in more than food. You swallow emotion. Suffering. Essence." The old man chimed in, voice gravelly. "The chef is a collector. Feeder. He takes fragments of the forgotten, cooks them into dishes, and serves them to those who wander too close." "But why?" I demanded. "What's the point?" Julia's voice turned cold. "Because we asked for it. Every one of us went in hungry. Not for food but for escape. Escape from pain, from the ordinary. And he gave us a taste of something else. But once you've tasted him, he doesn't let go." My stomach growled. Not a hunger sound but something deeper. Like a chorus tuning up before a dark symphony. The old man nodded at me. "You've got it growing inside you, don't you?" I didn't answer. He leaned in. "It starts small. A whisper. Quitch. But eventually it wants out. And it will come out. Screaming. Can we stop it? I whispered. They all went silent. Julia finally said, There's a way. Maybe. But it's dangerous. Worse than anything you've seen. I don't care. I'll do anything. She locked eyes with me. You have to cook it. What? The only way to undo the bond is to prepare a dish. Like he does. But not just any dish. One made from yourself. Memory. Regret. Something you've buried deep. You cook it, serve it, and if the meal is honest enough, maybe you get free. Maybe. Echoed. The old man stood. Or maybe the chef comes to claim what's his. I left the butcher shop with a pounding heart and a recipe I didn't understand. Cook your pain. Serve your truth. What the hell did that mean? I drove back to the motel in a daze. The moon was high, full, casting pale light across the empty road. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure standing in the field beside the highway. White jacket. Full hat. Grinning wide. I slammed on the brakes and leapt from the car. But there was nothing there. Just corn. I climbed back in, heart hammering. And that's when I saw it. My stomach was moving. Under my shirt, the flesh bulged and twitched like something was squirming beneath it. I lifted the fabric. Veins black as ink pulsed just beneath the skin. Then, from inside I heard it again. Scream. Followed by a whisper. Time to serve, chef. To be continued in part 3. Let me know when you're ready to continue and I'll dive into part 3, where the main character confronts their past and begins preparing the cursed dish that may be the only way out, or a trap of their own making. I stared at the mirror in the motel bathroom, the fluorescent light buzzing above me. My skin had gone pale, sickly. Veins beneath the surface pulsed like black worms. I hadn't slept. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes I saw him. That smile. That damn smile. And the scream. From inside me. It was louder now, like something was clawing its way up from my gut, trying to escape through my throat. I gagged. Nothing came up. Just the taste of ash and old blood. Then the whisper returned, curling around my ear like smoke. Cook your pain. Serve your truth. I didn't know what that meant. But I knew where I had to go. I drove until the sun started to rise. The sky peeled itself open in shades of red and bruised purple. Somewhere inside me something began to ache. Not physically but emotionally. Tug like a memory waking up. My hands clenched the wheel. There was only one place I could think of. Not where I lived now. Where I was made. It had been 15 years since I'd set foot in that old house, tucked into the edge of Pine Grove. A broken-down Victorian that used to hum with shouting, crying, and the slamming of doors. My childhood home. My mother had died when I was 10. My father, he died later but not in body. Just in spirit. After she passed, he collapsed into himself like a rotted structure. He drank blood. And when he drank he didn't talk, he raged. I parked the car a few blocks away. I wasn't sure what I expected to find. The house had been abandoned for years, the windows boarded up, the garden long since overtaken by vines and weeds. But as I stepped closer, I noticed something strange. The front door was open, slightly ajar, like it had been waiting for me. Inside the air was thick, stagnant. Dust hung in clouds, disturbed only by my breath. I moved slowly through the hallway, past the faded family portraits, past the shattered glass of the cabinet, past the place where I once curled up as a child to avoid the storm of fists and broken promises. Then, in the kitchen I stopped. Everything was clean, spotless. Countertops gleamed. Pots were hanging perfectly. The stove was new, shining. But it wasn't just clean. It was familiar. Familiar in a wrong way. Because this wasn't my childhood kitchen. It was Delirium's kitchen. Or a replica of it. The same white tiles. The same steel counters. The same scent, like roasted rosemary and something rotting underneath. I turned to leave. But the door had vanished. There was only one way forward now. I stepped toward the stove. And there, laid out neatly, were ingredients. Not food. Not exactly, but things. Objects. Symbols of my past. A small worn teddy bear. A stained bottle of cheap whiskey. A photograph torn in half. My mother's smile fading into a blur. And a recipe card. No ink. Just etched letters, burned into the paper. Dish regret stew. Main ingredients. 1 buried memory. 3 tablespoons of guilt. A dash of unresolved trauma. Instructions. Deep. Boil over. Serve while screaming. My hands trembled as I picked up the knife. The bear was first. It had been mine when I was 5. The night my father first hit me, I buried my face in it to stifle the sobs. It had smelled like my mother back then. Chopped it open. Stuffing spilled out like clouds of old dreams. A drop of dark liquid oozed from the center. Something thick and crimson. Moved on. The bottle of whiskey shattered beneath the blade. Shards digging into my palm. Blood mixed with liquor, pooling on the counter like some unholy reduction. The photograph, I didn't want to touch it. But I did. My mother's eyes stared up at me. There was warmth in them I had long forgotten. The kind of warmth that used to make me feel safe before it was all stripped away. Tore it again. The stove flared to life on its own. A pot appeared, boiling with black liquid. I threw in the memories. The stew hissed. And then the screaming began. Not from the pot. From me. Images hit me like blunt force trauma. My father yelling. My mother gasping for breath. Me hiding in the closet. Her funeral. His belt. The silence. The silence. The endless silence that came after. I fell to the floor, clutching my head. And then laughter. I looked up. The chef was there. Standing just beyond the kitchen inside the hall. But not just him. There were others behind him. Shadows. Faces melted, blurred. One had no eyes. Another's mouth stretched from ear to ear. Quite the flavor, the chef purred, stepping closer. Pain aged well. Regret always does. What do you want from me? Choke. He leaned in, his breath cold and sweet. I want you to serve. You've proven yourself. Your dish is honest. It's time you joined the kitchen staff. I didn't agree to this. But you did, he whispered. The moment you tasted what we offered. The moment you swallowed pain not your own. You're part of the menu now. I backed away, slipping in my own blood. But the chef raised a hand. The pot on the stove shimmered. Inside the stew was changing. Shapes formed in the liquid. Faces, screaming, twisting. My face among them. You cooked your truth, he said. Now serve it to others. Let them taste what you've hidden. What you've feared. No, I screamed. I won't. He tilted his head. Then the hunger will never leave you. It will grow. Until you can no longer tell what's yours. And what's mine. Clutched my stomach. It was burning. Like the stew inside had found its way into my organs. I fell to my knees. The chef leaned in one last time. When the hunger becomes too much, you'll return. You all do. And then, I woke up. I was in my motel bed. Soaked in sweat. The window curtains fluttered with the wind. For a moment, I thought it had all been a dream. Until I smelled it. Ooh. Simmering. From the motel kitchenette, the scent wafted over. Rich, earthy, and bitter. I approached it slowly. There on the burner was a small pot. Boiling gently. Inside was the stew. My stew. My memories. My screams. My pain. And a bowl beside it. With a note. You are now ready to serve. Collapsed into the chair. My stomach groaned. This time the whisper was clearer. Voices I didn't recognize. Not my pain anymore. Someone else's. Someone new. A knock at the door. 3 slow taps. Then silence. 3 knocks. Low. Measured. Like a heartbeat on the other side of the motel door. I didn't move. The stew still simmered behind me, its scent filling the room with something unholy, rich with emotion, dense with memories that weren't mine anymore. 3 knocks again. I stepped forward. My hand hovered over the knob. My stomach twisted, the whisper returning. This time it sounded hungry. "Serve." Open the door. Man stood there. Early 20s. Hood up. In. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept in weeks. He blinked at me. "You posted about food?" he asked. "On the dark forums." "What?" He held up his phone. There was a screenshot of a message board thread. My motel room number. A post I hadn't made. One free dish. Experience pain like never before. Knock thrice. "I didn't. I've been trying everything," the man interrupted. "Therapy. Pills. Mushrooms. Nothing helps. I just want to feel something again. Anything." He looked past me toward the pot on the stove. His eyes lit up. I should have slammed the door. Screamed at him to leave. But something inside me shifted. The same part that had whispered before. "Serve." I stepped aside. "Come in." He didn't ask questions. Just sat at the tiny table by the window. His eyes locked on the bowl I poured for him. Steam curled from the dark liquid. Tendrils rising like fingers, caressing his face. I placed the bowl in front of him. He didn't hesitate. First spoonful. His eyes widened. Second, he started crying. By the third, he was gasping. It's me, but it's not," he whispered. "I feel things I forgot. My mom's hands. My brother's laugh. The night I almost..." He trailed off, tears streaming down his face. Then came the scream. Not from him. From me. Because as he ate, I started seeing flashes. Memories that weren't mine. A childhood dog crushed under tires. A brother who drowned in a frozen lake. The feeling of a father's fist against a teenage jaw. I dropped to my knees, clutching my head. His pain poured into me. But it didn't hurt, not exactly. Filled something. A hole I hadn't noticed had been growing. When he finished the last bite, he looked lighter. Like a weight had lifted. He stood slowly. "I don't know what that was," he whispered. "But thank you." Then he left. The door clicked shut behind him. And I collapsed. I woke up in the bathtub, water running cold over my legs. A new note lay on my chest. One down. Many to go. My hands shook as I picked it up. On the back, names. 7. All scrawled in that same seared lettering. Hully. Un. Mira. Eric. Una. Essie. Solomon. 7 more people. 7 more meals. 7 more screams. I looked back toward the kitchenette. The pot was full again. Stew. But the smell had changed. Harper. Like fresh grief with undertones of betrayal. And I was starving. I didn't invite the second guest. She came the next night. A woman in her 40s. Worn shoes. Deep eyes. "I don't know why I'm here," she said. Something pulled me. I was just driving. I didn't respond. I just poured a bowl. She cried from the first spoonful. She screamed by the 5th. She laughed by the last. When she left, she kissed my forehead. Said she hadn't felt this alive since her daughter died. And I once again saw her memories. A girl with curly hair. Hospital room. Empty shoes by a crib. I threw up in the sink after she left. But not from nausea. From relief. By the 4th name I stopped resisting. Each person came with a story I never asked for. Each person left lighter. And I became heavier. Felt full. Saturated with pain but calm. As if the stew was making space in me. Pushing my pain out and replacing it with theirs. Or maybe, feeding on all of it. By the 6th name I didn't need the notes. They came on their own. At night. 3 knocks. Always 3. I would serve. They would eat. And I would see. One night, after the 6th serving, I tried to leave the motel. Packed my bag, walked to my car. But the parking lot had changed. It was no longer paved. It was kitchen tile. Stretching in every direction. I spun around. The motel was gone. The sky had no stars. Just a pulsing white overhead like a heat lamp. The chef stood at the edge of the horizon. Smiling. Behind him 100 other figures moved. Carrying plates, trays, silver knives. Some had aprons made of human skin. Others wore masks sewn from mouths. I blinked, and I was back in my room. A new note on the table. Final name, Solomon. No address. No instructions. Just the name. And a feeling. Like I knew him. I looked for Solomon for 2 days. Finally found him in a hospital. Psych ward. He'd tried to burn out his own tongue. Said it kept whispering recipes to him. I sat across from him in the visitation room. He stared at me wild-eyed. "You're one of his," he said. "I didn't ask for this," I replied. He laughed. "None of us did." "I need you to eat the stew," I said. He froze. Then slowly he nodded. That night, back in the motel, I served Solomon. He didn't scream. He sang. A low, haunting hum that vibrated the windows. The stew didn't boil. Glowed. When he finished, he looked at me and said, "It's not done. There's one more dish to make." "I served all 7, I argued. He pointed at me. "You're the final course." After he left, I stood in the middle of the room, unsure of what came next. The pot was empty. For the first time in days there was silence. Until the knock came. Not 3 knocks. Just one. Then the door creaked open on its own. A blast of cold air rolled in. And beyond the doorway was not the motel hallway, but the restaurant. Delirium's kitchen. Live. Beckoning. The doorway yawned before me like a mouth preparing to bite. Beyond it, Delirium's kitchen. Not the version from my memories. Not the sterile kitchen from the dream. This was the real thing. The walls breathed. The tiles pulsed beneath my feet like muscle and tendon. Light bulbs flickered above me, but not from electricity. They flickered like eyes adjusting to my presence. Watching. Welcoming. I stepped inside. Behind me, the motel door slammed shut. When I turned to look, it had vanished. There was no going back. The kitchen stretched endlessly, counters packed with tools I didn't recognize. Cleavers shaped like wings, blenders filled with red froth that whispered names, ovens glowing with a heat that felt alive. Pots stirred themselves. Spices floated through the air like pollen, fragrant and dizzying. Everywhere I looked, someone was working. But they weren't people. Some had no faces, just blank skin where features should be. Others had too many. Mouths on their cheeks, eyes across their arms. Some were crawling across the ceiling, clutching plates with tongues instead of hands. All of them wore the same thing. A stitched apron embroidered with a single word across the chest. Servant. I felt the same word burning into my skin. I looked down. My clothes were gone. In their place, the apron. The letters branding themselves into my chest. SERVANT. Bell rang. The sound hit me like a hammer. Deep, resonant. It shook the room and the very bones of my body. Then he appeared. The chef. Still smiling. Only now the smile was wider. Endless. His face split open from temple to temple. Teeth gleaming like cutlery. His eyes were 2 boiling pots of oil. "You've done well," he said, voice rich as broth. "You served others. You gave them relief. You shared their pain." He stepped forward. "Now it's time to share yours." I backed away, but there was no escape. The kitchen shifted behind me, the floor curling like a tongue, pushing me forward. "Every servant reaches the final course," he whispered. "Every server becomes the served." I was pushed against a cold steel table. Restraints snapped up from the metal, binding my wrists and ankles. The chef leaned down beside my ear. "You fed others your sorrow. Now they will feed on you." The others gathered. All the ones I had served, Ben, Mira, Cassie, even Solomon. Their faces had changed. Glazed eyes. Smiling mouths. Me. They stepped forward, bowls in hand. I realized with horror that the stew wasn't in the bowls. The bowls were me. Flesh curled at the edges. My own skin, my own blood, my own memories. Cut, cooked and served. And as they did, I remembered. Every moment I'd tried to forget. My mother's final breath as I hid under her bed. My father's laughter as the belt cracked across my spine. The silence that came after her funeral, where no one spoke my name. The kitchen I locked myself in the day I tried to die. I screamed, but no sound came. The steam rising from my mouth. The chef circled me. You taste of fear, he said. Bitterness. Shame. Aged nicely. He leaned in, pressing a knife to my chest. But there's one final layer left. He carved slowly, not my body but something beneath it. Something deeper. A voice echoed in my mind. Cook your pain. Serve your truth. Understood now. This wasn't just about food. It was penance. Every dish I served gave away a piece of myself. Every scream I heard was a scream I had ignored in my own soul. The kitchen didn't just feed on pain. It refined it, until it became honest. Stillness. The chef stepped back. The kitchen fell silent. Every servant watched me. And then something changed. I didn't feel pain anymore. Felt empty. Like the restraints melted away. I stood. The chef's smile faltered. He stepped back, eyes narrowing. You're not done, he hissed. But I was. I had given everything. There was nothing left to cook. No more shame. No more fear. Only truth. You can't feed on me anymore, I whispered. I've served everything. Even myself. A silence fell over the kitchen. And then the building began to shake. The oven doors burst open. Black smoke poured out, howling with the voices of 1,000 forgotten souls. The other servants screamed. Flames curled up from the floor. The chef howled, backing into the shadows, but they consumed him too. His apron burned last, the word servant curling into ash. The kitchen began to collapse. And I walked forward. Into the fire. I woke up. Back in the motel. The room was quiet. The pot on the stove was gone. The apron was gone. Only a mirror remained on the table. I approached it. Written in steam across the glass. You have served. Now you may live. I looked at my reflection. And for the first time in years, I wasn't smiling. I wasn't crying. I was just me. Weeks have passed. I've moved to a new town. Got a small place. Quiet. Sleep now. I dream now, but not of kitchens. Not of knives. But sometimes late at night I hear it. Knock. 3 taps. And I know. Somewhere another kitchen waits. Another soul ready to serve. Another chef smiling too much. And one day, might come knocking for you.